when every member moving into the ashram has at least a good interest in transforming, you will achieve an alive and thriving, like an organism that the ashram will become, an alive fraternity. After this general introduction to understand the principles of ashram life, we want to address specific subjects that tend to be subjects of quarrel and conflict and confusion and so forth. And one of the big ones is rules in the ashram. So let's address that just a little bit. Now, typically, you will have two ways that people interact with rules in the ashram. One is they hate them and they find it completely useless to apply to them, and they will try to find ways to sneak out of them or to pretend as if they do them, but they're not really following them. And then the other way of relating to rules is to try to make rules happen that allow for your preferences to be applied. So if you are a clean person, you will try to push for rules that will force people to be more clean. If you are not such a clean person, you will rebel against the cleaning rules, right? Now you will do it sloppily or in whatever way ignore them. The rules of the ashram have, of course, a certain outer expression. For example, well, there's a space where people live and we need to agree how to clean it. But this is not specific for ashram life. This is specific also for a family to live together or any kind of groups of people that share a home. They will need to figure this out. The dimension of rules concerning the ashram is much more important to look at the inner qualities of it, to look at the inner expansion of rules within the ashram. In an ideal ashram, you would basically just run on yamas and niyamas, on the moral principles of creating a balanced outer life and creating a balanced inner life. And you wouldn't even need to think about it. You would simply follow the one rule that St. Augustine put: love and do as you want, do as you will. This would be following the rules that are written naturally within your heart. Typically, when you follow those rules, you will apply to, you will not hurt people, you will not lie to people, you will not steal from people, you will take care of all of that, and you will be disciplined, and you'll have an aspiration towards God, and you'll study yourself and others, and you'll be kind, and you'll be happy. All of these different things, they will be covered naturally. That would be an ideal ashram, like Uriel said, that sort of creates this overlap between heavenly paradisiacal realms and then our living situation down here on earth. When the first communities were created within the global school that we belong to, there was one rule in the first ashrams 30 years ago, and that one rule was spiritual practice comes first. Whatever that means in each of the, you see how wide this is, right? It comes first. You should do your spiritual practice. It should have importance in your life. If you are two people in a room and one wants to do music and the other wants to do spiritual practice comes first. So it's quite a vast meaning that lies in this very simple rule. But now, 30 years later, same ashrams, they have a rule book that you can throw through a window and break it. So big it is. And you could ask yourself why? What happened in the meantime? Now, the interesting thing that happens within an ashram is that as much as you have a bunch of people with an ego, with a mind, that live together in a house like it is in any community or any family or any place where people live together. Now this group of people, on top of that, will have some certain ideals that it wants to live up to. And there will be naturally a certain tension between that which we wish to express in order to have this super heartful place, paradise-like, temple-like place, and where we are currently at. And to cover the distance between where everybody is right now and where the ideal is, as thick the rule book will become. That this is just something that will simply happen in time. Unfortunately, oftentimes, at least from the situations that I've observed in contemporary ashrams, we will not so much have it on our awareness to continuously, as individuals, contribute to the slimming of the book. How would we do that? By rising our own awareness, by going to higher levels, by understanding more deeply, by doing all the wonderful things that Uriel said, addressing people with forgiveness, focusing on how we can transform and all of that. That would mean gradually our own level comes closer and closer to the level of the heart. If you would have a bunch of people living together that are basically, the ego is just a little excuse there to not yet be fully enlightened, people with an extremely humble ego, very sweet and so forth, they will have the Yamas and Niyamas plus a few practical rules. How do we behave in the dining area and how do we behave over here? But it will be very slim, the rule book. Whereas if you have people far away from the heart, and then many of them, and insisting on that state, the rule book will even grow thicker in time. Now, a common mistake is to use now this rule book and even to enforce it and to grow it larger and larger with the hope to get closer to the ideal, with the hope to reach to the heart. Well, if we just, chastise the egos around strong enough, and if we just enforce enough, and we squeeze cleanliness out of them, and then we squeeze heartfulness out of them, then eventually we will not need a rule book. So we will just enlarge the rule book until it will suddenly disappear. And that's just not going to happen. What we can do, though, is to simply close the gap between wherever we are and the heart, and to do that individually, and to do it as much as we can in a group, supporting each other, having wonderful common practices and so forth that might inspire for this process to happen. When the rule becomes an expression of rigidity, of oppression, of control over others, rather than a helpful guideline to understand, okay, this is how we could calm the mind a bit more, to open the heart a bit more, then the rules in itself in the ashram will no longer be a tool of discipline and transformation, but they will become the fortress of all the egos living there. And you will see, if you've ever been in a long-term development of a community, how the egos will even defend by their lives certain rules to be applied. Within a group, and this is something that you know from sort of common speech, a chain is as strong as the weakest link. And it's the same in an ashram community. So you will have to sort of accept the fact that within your community, each and everybody's weaknesses will contribute to the largeness of the rule book, will contribute to, the struggles of aiming to come to this perfect fraternity. And each of us, with our weaknesses, will contribute to this difficulty and to this struggle. Even a good reason to have more compassion, as also you are throwing some coins into that same box. What do we do? First thing is to return to the initial why, the initial motivation, aspiration rather, inspiration, why we form a community and an ashram life in the first place. And the, let's say, driving force of the community should be, in case of an ashram, to continuously transform towards that higher ideal that is that paradisiac, heaven-like state that we are all looking for. When we have that attitude, everything becomes an opportunity to grow. You live now with a bunch of people that you very likely didn't choose. Yeah, you have now brothers and sisters there living with you that are maybe not your best friends. And maybe you don't have so much in common. The only thing you have in common is the same master or the same practice. Now you find yourself there. Well, that circumstance can help you to expand in your love, in your forgiveness, in your compassion. To follow some rules that maybe right now you're like, no, if I would live alone, I wouldn't clean in that way. I wouldn't do precisely in this way. I wouldn't. Learning to simply do it makes you humble. Very good. Check the main orientation of everybody, transformation. Check, already I have my goal fulfilled. The fact that now I have to do some cleaning that normally I wouldn't be doing, check, I'm transforming. Awesome, right? Doing an intense spiritual practice, doing some simple tasks that I need to help out with. I can learn discipline. I can learn to, cut my pride and all sorts of wonderful things. Now, the leaders of an ashram should, and the seniors, may I add, should play a very active part in this process of shrinking down the rule book. Or, in other words, in this process of continuously transforming all together as a group. A very wonderful example is the community in this book No Solar that at the moment everybody in Mahasiddha loves very much. And in that book, it's called sometimes the Astral City by Chico Javier, the leaders that run the community, they will always have this role of reminding people of the higher principles by example. Yeah, not just, I tell you how to do and then I do, I don't know what, but to continuously aim to be an example of that. And somehow the longer you stay within an ashram community, then the more you are carrying the shrinkage of the rule book together with everybody else. The more you become, a receiver of the grace of that community, then the more you will be in the role of returning the favor back through your transformation. The ashram rules, guidelines, principles that are not observed by the individual, this is another interesting principle at work, remove the person in question from the ashram. What does that mean? Remember that the ashram is inside. Being in an ashram is not you have a house where people live, that's the ashram. It's a little tiny practical aspect of what the ashram is. The essence of the ashram is within the people that live there. If you would take all those people out and then move other people into the house that have nothing to do with spirituality, it's no longer an ashram, right? So clearly it's an inner thing that is going on. If we, as elements, little cells of the big body of the ashram, don't apply the principles, the guidelines of this kind of aiming for paradisiac living, we will temporarily be removed from the ashram because we are no longer in touch with it. We are no longer part of it. Yeah, and the moment you break Yamas Niyamas, for example, for that moment, you are out of the ashram. You have some hateful thoughts about somebody that lives with you. For the moment, you're out of the ashram because you're not contributing to the paradisiacal living and you're not resonating with that. Then, a few hours later, okay, you gather yourself, you did some practice, you forgive them, and you are appearing back on the subtle map of the ashram. The more people within the ashram will act in a way of somehow continuously removing themselves from the ashram subtly, the more the ashram will stop to be an ashram. And this is something that you can really watch happen. You can watch that decay happen in time. So again, it's the same principle at work. There's one person moving a bit off track, coming back, off track, coming back. Now, if they move off track, they are out of the ashram, subtly, and they stay there for some time, and they stay out, and they stay out, and they stay. Gradually, they will remove themselves from that paradisiac thing that is supposed to happen in the group. Now, more people follow, more people follow, more people follow. All of a sudden, you again just have a house. And how that usually will show itself is that the ashram will gradually degrade into an atmosphere of tension, of forcing stuff onto each other, of trying to overrule one another, or simply having a flat attitude, aspiration going down, transformation going down, having a superficial interaction with one another that doesn't go into the depth of transformation. And as I said, this is something you can watch happen just within months and years. Now, what is your responsibility? What are the rules for you if you are part of of a spiritual community like that. First thing, best would be before you're getting yourself into the situation, understand what you're getting yourself into. Not just outwardly, okay, I need to do this practice, this cleaning, this karma yoga hours. No, understand it as an inner thing and then make a clear choice that this is what you really want. Assume responsibility for becoming an active part of that community, hopefully inspired from a true inner interest of your heart. The second thing to do is, also would be great if you would do that before you move into the ashram, check your motivations. If you have any other reason to move into an ashram apart from a profound aspiration to transform, better not to be part of a spiritual community. Ram Dass writes in his book, if you want at all costs to hold on to your personality, don't join a spiritual community. It's a very straightforward, easy way to understand it. When every member moving into the ashram has at least a good interest in transforming, you will achieve an alive and thriving, like an organism that the ashram will become, an alive fraternity. Also, as we said, the attitude of transformation disinfects any experience that you might have. You have challenging experience, transformation. You have great experience, transformation. So you have an answer already for everything that will happen to you within the ashram life. The third point, what are your responsibilities, what are the rules for you, is to do your best. To follow the rules outside and inside as good as you can. Not to now, be into excruciating guilt if you don't manage everything, but do your best. Have an active attitude to better yourself. Have an active attitude to contribute wonderfully to the community. Offering your best in this way, also simply by growing, you will see that it will pay off within the community, multiplying and enriching the group in a beautiful way, and of course that will come back to you. Part of this doing your best thing could be keeping a good spirit, keeping a good humor, assuming responsibility for the experiences that you are having. Work on the inside rather than pointing and blaming on the outside. Definitely an ashram is not a good place to point fingers. That is one of the main reasons why a group would decay. Fourth point, transfiguration. This means to actively and continuously assume that the others are doing their best, and not to assume that you're the only one doing your best and everybody else is just creeping around. They are doing their best as well. Again, blaming has no place in the heart. As a motto here, you have what Jesus says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank, imagine a plank, in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. This was Jesus' direction to his community, to the people living around him, observing them, seeing how they act. This was his little token of wisdom. Fifth point, to create an active bridge, an active attempt to bridge the distance between where you're now and the heart. Diligent practice on your yoga mat and in day-to-day life. Point 6, continuously watch your attitude. This is a very good rule to keep in mind for yourself in the ashram. Yamas and Niyamas can become your best friends and guides. Look at them, understand them, listen to the Nosala audiobook and see how they are doing it. Try to figure out how they are doing it. It's such a great example. So in this way, the practice of living in the ashram becomes an actual 24-hour practice, which obviously requires our 24-hour awareness as well. And the seventh point, relax and enjoy. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It will surely happen. Don't be afraid to say that you are sorry. Don't be afraid to be corrected and then to react to that and to correct yourself as well. All of it offers a wonderful, profound opportunity to transform. And as we surrender to that, it can take us Finally, one of the rules to follow within the ashram is the law, even as a law, the law of occult giving, which is one of the most wonderful ways of, and fastest ways maybe, to create such a fraternity that Uriel spoke about. When we don't apply the whole rule making with an attitude of actually wishing still to offer to one another, then again, it just becomes like everybody lives in their box, and the boxes, they bump into each other, and they will, be unhappy about this bumping and have all sorts of oppositions towards one another. But when we come from a place of offering, then the rules can become actually a tool that invites us to be more and more virtuous rather than being more and more vicious with one another. As simple as that. We have this little sign in our kitchen that says, take out 2 and add 1. Which means when you wash a cup and you put in a wet cup into the crate where everything is drying up, take out 2 things and put them on the shelf. It's a very simple expression of giving within the community. When you are always willing to give a little more than you take, to give a little extra, to give before you ask anything, then the community becomes this thriving, ever-growing fountain of continuous resources, of continuous offering, of continuous beautiful resonances. Uriel hinted it already a little bit before. Within a community, when you give and take, it's not just a plus-minus simple addition-subtraction game, but much rather, let's say, you do a beautiful action towards your fellow human, and you take their plate and you wash their plate. Now the community wins one brownie point that you washed the plate for someone. That's a win. But it will also get a brownie point for you doing something beautiful for someone else, and them now feeling happy. Oh, how sweet that they do that for me. How nice is that? So not only did you offer the plate, you also offer a nice gesture, a beautiful feeling in another person. You offer doing something virtuous. You offer inner transformation. You offer many things when you start to offer even the smallest, littlest gestures. It's the same when you take. When you consider, well, my preference and what I want to do should be nailed down in a rule and people should follow it, and then I will complain when they don't follow it. Not only are you taking from the others what you want, but you are taking from the harmony of the group. You are taking from their good feeling. You are taking from the connection that is between the two of you. So when you have a group, always you have this multiplication, both on the negative end, but much more important, on the positive end. So therefore, one of the most wonderful rules that we wish to invite you to apply, actually no matter what kind of living situation you have, even in your family, even if you just live with some friends, to make that something that you continuously apply. Always give a little more than you take. If you are willing to remove an extra plate from the crate will always be empty. If you are always willing to clean a little more than you made dirty, it will always be clean. It's a very, very simple rule that can really help us in communities. Homework, suggested homework, optional homework, do some nice gestures. Wash somebody's plate, clean a little extra something, take in the laundry when it's raining, even if it's not yours. Not because you have to, not because it's another rule that you follow like a robot, but because it's good for you and for your spiritual family and for the growth of your heart and so forth. That would be the suggestion. Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on spirituality, Tantra and more.
And if you want to sign up for our online classes or for our retreats, you can see our website on the description below.